Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Allahumma sholli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad amma ba'd. 170 million. That's the number of Indonesian users in social media according to datareporter.com in January 2021, with an average 3 hours and 26 minute time spent on it daily. With that being said, studies have linked the use of social media to depression, anxiety, fear of missing out, poor sleep quality, inattention, and hyperactivity, especially for teenagers and adolescents. And the question remains, how do we solve these problems? And why should we? Ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister, there are 270 million Indonesian citizens as of June 2021, and 27% of them are Gen Z, 10 to 23 years old. Based on the survey from the Central Bureau of Statistics, they live and grew with the advance of technology, and they couldn't separate themselves from technology. Since the students' demonstration in September 2019, this generation has been labeled as quote-unquote kaum rebahan and became the trending topic up until now. The terms come from their habits where they just want to lay around the bed scrolling through social media. And to be honest, who doesn't like to lay around and do nothing? If it makes you richer, smarter and better, then go on. But unfortunately, it is not, and we need to change it. By what? How do we change that? Who should we follow to change it? What do we have to do in order to escape from this bottomless abyss? Well, we could change those bad habits by following the one and the only guidance, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is because he's the only good example. As what Allah said in Quran, Al-Azab verses 21. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. Verily, there is for you a good example in the messenger of God, whoever hopes for the encounter with God and the last day, and remembers God often. But before that, let's talk about bad habit first. These bad activities won't become a habit unless the laziness has rooting on ourselves. It indeed has a massive effect and will bring another bad thing, such as thinking that life is only once, so that we could just enjoy our moment and neglect our obligation. This idea has been around the youth generation, and it normalized them. The obligation they neglected isn't just about morality, such as being a good child, respecting and obeying the teachers. No, it is also the Sharia and the order from Allah, like Salat Fardu and studying about religion. And this thing has already been mentioned in Quran, Surah Maryam, verses 59. فَخَلَفَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. But there come after them successors who neglected prayer and pursued desires, so they are going to meet evil. While laziness could bring a lot of bad habits, playing too much social media will cause them to be emotional in thinking, speaking, and doing. Many researchers agree that social media will make them easily reactive to all the things that happens. Instead of thinking before doing, they tend to be spontaneous with many activities. Let's say there's depression, anxiety, insecure, and overthinking. These are common words we could find on social media where teenagers use it to dramatize their condition. And this happened for Muslim teenagers. Some consider learning about Islam, worshipping will pressure and make them stress. And for most of them, learning about Islam is boring because if they learn about their religion, their friends will mock them and tell them, "You're too religious." Or they think just learning what the society did is actually enough for them without even need to learn more about Quran and Sunnah. Although we already know, the purpose of our life is to worship Allah only. If worshiping becomes so hard and the teenagers drown within the dunya, how about the hereafter? Ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister, lack of literacy, lack of education is also the outcome from being lazy. A research from PISA in 2018 said the quality of our education is 126 years behind other countries in Asia. The quality of education is the aspect which got much attention in recent years. Not only the factors of politics and economy, poor quality of education happened because of the lack of reading interest around teenagers, because they choose to lay around and scrolling through social media. Instead of read some pages, they feel happier to take their phone and start hooking themselves with their phone. It is obvious that school, classroom, or even social media itself shows the importance of learning in Islam. In fact, the very first ayah revealed to our Prophet is about reading, Iqra. And almost all the Muslim teenagers already know about that ayah. But how many of them could apply it in real life? As a Muslim youth generation, it is indeed our obligation to take example from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah himself has already intimated us in his hadith to ask for the guidance of Allah to keep us away from being lazy. O Allah, I take refuge in you from anxiety and sorrow, weakness and laziness, miserliness and cowardice, the burden of death and from being overpowered by men. Rawahu Bukhari Muslim. Moreover, Rasulullah has already been giving us many examples to be a good youth, to use our time properly. When he was a kid, he already had a responsibility of herding sheep. As he grew up, he took advantage to help his uncle's business. Even in another change, Rasulullah had to brought all the entire good to another city. Therefore, there's a lot of stories about how good our Prophet was as a teenager. Ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister, we are what we are thinking. Our mind is the result of our repeated activities. I do believe if we could try to maintain our habits step by step, we could be better than before. Start from little things. Read one page of book per day, memorize an ayah a day, do one push-up a day. Try to reduce our scrolling time on social media. Reduce our time on bed and replace it with something productive. Read more sirah to know more about our Prophet, because he's the only good example. He is the only pathway to success. Eventually, it's all coming back to us. Even with 1,000 ways, 1,000 solutions, or even if this is the end of the world, it's all coming back to us. Are we going to change ourselves, or are we just going to flow with whatever happened to us? It is for us to decide. For a better future, a better ummah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.